everyone and welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're going to take a look at the song Long Slow Goodbye by the Queens of the Stone Age. A very easy song to play, but still a lot of fun, and it also gives me a chance to show you a bit of slide guitar. As always, I've prepared tabs and a lead sheet for this song, which you can download for free by clicking the link in the video description or the first pinned comment below. So let's dive right into the song. Sound-wise, we're playing the rhythm guitar with just a little bit of gain, barely any, so that you can still clearly hear all the strings. When you play your open chords that way, all the chord tones really come through nicely. Let me just strum an E major chord here. On my guitar, I've selected the middle pickup position, which means both the neck and the bridge pickups are on. That gives you this kind of nasal tone with just the right balance of bass and treble frequencies. Now let's talk about the rhythm. We've got a super simple eighth note rhythm and we're only using downstrokes. One thing you'll want to avoid is strumming across all 6 strings all the time. To really make the song sound like the recording, try focusing more on the top 4 strings when you're on the E chord, for example. This sounds much better than hitting all the strings all the time. What sounds even better is to hit the lower strings briefly on every 4th beat. It creates a nice little ringing effect that carries into the next measure and gives the rhythm some variation. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... After the intro, which is played using only the E major chord, the verse begins. It helps a lot to follow the lyrics here because it takes quite a while before it switches to the next chord, G major. And then to D major. Before finally returning to E. You can use the lead sheet from the download section to follow along. I'll sing the verses for you once and then you can see exactly where the chord changes happen.
Where have you gone again, my sweet? Everybody wants to know. Where have you gone again, my sweet? Everybody wants to know where you've gone. Where you've gone.
That's the complete first verse, and as you can see, the G is played for 1 bar, just like the D chord. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and before going back to E. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You'll stay on E for 2 bars. Then we have another bar of G. And the D major chord is strummed once, followed by a bar of rest before we move into the second verse. The verses basically stay the same, except that in the later ones, the D major chord is strummed continuously. Now let's move on to the chorus. Again, a very simple chord progression. You go from E to A minor, then to a D, and then back to E for 2 bars. You play the same thing again. And then you move on to the third verse. In the first chorus, you repeat this twice, and in the second and third choruses later on, 4 times. That means 4 rounds of A minor, D, and E. As you can see, I'm doing the same thing I always do. I strum open strings on the last eighth note to stay in rhythm and make the chord changes a bit easier. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. If you watched my other videos on rhythm guitar, you already know this technique, so this shouldn't be hard for you. I've linked that playlist up here as well. After the second chorus, we have what I'd call an interlude or a bridge, something that's completely different from the other parts and only played once. Here the band plays an E minor chord and then a D7 chord for 2 bars. These are bar chords, by the way. If you're still at the beginning of your musical journey, you can absolutely play this section using open chords instead. So here are 2 examples for you, one with bar chords and one with open chords. After this section, there's another verse and one final chorus, and the song ends just like it began with a sustained E major chord. Alright, let's move on to the lead guitar and the slide parts. If you've never played with a slide before, here are a few tips. There are basically 2 quote-unquote schools of slide guitar players. Some people wear the slide on their pinky so they can still fret chords with the other fingers. I use very heavy copper slides, so I prefer wearing mine on my ring finger. Whichever way you do it, technically you'll want to do something different from normal fretting. Don't place the slide between the frets like you would with your fingers. Instead, place it directly above the fret wire. That means if you want to play the note G sharp on the 9th fret on the B string, you place the slide exactly over the 9th fret. You can play slide guitar with a pick, like I'm doing right now. Or with a combination of pick and middle finger. Personally, I prefer playing only with my fingers. That gives your thumb more control to mute unwanted strings, especially when several are ringing out at once. This way you can make only the strings you want ring clearly. You'll also use your other 2 or 3 fingers, depending on which finger your slide is on, to mute behind the slide and eliminate unwanted noise. Sound-wise, you've probably already noticed that I'm using a bit more distortion now, because we need a lot of sustain for this part. Especially in the chorus parts, each note is picked only once. The rest of the notes are created purely by sliding. Let me show you the first chorus part and what's being played there. It goes almost hand in hand with the lyrics, long, slow, goodbye. So each word corresponds to a different note. It starts with a slide from the 12th to the 13th fret on the B string. Then, without picking again, you slide back down to the 10th fret. And then again, still without picking, back up to the 12th fret. That's the end of the first phrase or the first figure. So all together you play. You can see how I'm muting the upper strings with my right hand so that only the B string rings out. And if you look at the tablature, you'll notice those wavy lines. That means we can add a little vibrato by gently moving the slide left and right, making the notes ring a bit longer. The second time around, when the chorus repeats, it's going to be a bit trickier because we have to play multiple strings at once. We play the same notes as before. But then we add a slide from the 7th to the 9th fret on the D string. And below that, the 9th fret on both the G and B strings. It's a bit tricky to move back from the 10th fret to the 7th fret for the next slide. You'll need to use your right hand fingers again to mute any unwanted noise. So you go from here and with a little bit of practice, you'll get the motion smoothly. Right after the chorus, there's a short connecting part that leads into the next verse. In the third verse, you'll play a small fill when he sings all night long, and it's basically the same as the one you played at the end of the chorus or in the transition. A slide from the 7th to the 9th fret on the G string, then to the 9th fret on the B string. Then, to get back into the chorus, you'll slide from the 9th fret up to the 12th fret. When the G chord comes in, that gives you two notes from a G major triad. Then you move to the 10th fret and play that familiar figure once more. The next chorus begins with a slide up from the 9th to the 13th fret, then to the 10th and down to the 9th, then from the 12th to the 13th, over the 10th to the 12th, then from the 12th to the 13th fret, to the 15th, back to the 12th, and finally from the 12th to the 13th, up to the 17th fret. Those are all 4 repetitions of the chorus. They go almost exactly along with the vocal line. Now let's move on to the solo part, and here's what you play. This is probably the hardest part of the entire song because you have to make a very long slide from the 10th all the way up to the 19th fret and then slide back, mute the B string at just the right moment, and land back on the G string at the 13th fret. Let's play that a little slower. You can see it's not that easy to mute at exactly the right spot and end up on the G string cleanly. That's the first figure. The second one is similar, but you only slide up to the 17th fret before returning to the 13th. Here's the whole solo again. Now we're at the final chorus. This one starts off a bit simpler. Then there's a bigger slide. And at the end, you go all the way up to the imaginary 24th fret on the B string. Here it is again, slowly. If your amp is loud enough, it's easier, but if you're playing at room volume, feel free to pick the note again when going up to the 24th fret. Alright, that brings us to the end of this lesson. I hope you have a lot of fun playing and practicing this one. Let me know in the comments if everything was clear for you, especially the slide parts. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss any new lessons. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care and bye.